I'm going to be honest with you guys, I was not looking forward to playing this game, which it's so weird because I love Spyro Gateway to Glimmer, but after playing through the Japanese version of Spyro the Dragon, my expectations for Spyro 2 were really low. Spyro the Dragon was a huge hit upon its release in the West, so it was no surprise that it received a sequel. However, in Japan this wasn't such a given. The first game wasn't received so well in the region due to, in my opinion, a completely botched localization. Instead of delivering more of the same, Insomniac sought to address criticism of the original's often repetitive nature by dramatically changing the game's structure. Spyro 2, The Gateway to Glimmer, or Ripto's Rage as it's known in North America, was released in 1999 for the PlayStation. The Japanese release wasn't until the year 2000 and had its name changed to Spyro x Sparx Tondemo Spyro x Sparx Tondemo Tours. Tondemo means outrageous, so I guess its full English name is Sparx and Spyro's Outrageous Tours. So can Japan redeem itself with this localization? Let's find out together. The title screen is just as dynamic as the one in the first game. One of the major differences is the game's logo. It's in a vastly different style to the English and even from the Japanese Spyro the Dragon logo seen in the first game. As for the menu, it's what you'd expect from most games around this time. You can load a save game, change your settings, etc. Since I can't read Japanese and there isn't really much to go over, let's just get into the game, shall we? Spyro decides to take a holiday to Dragon Shores. He invited his friend Sparx to join him and together the duo soared through a magic gateway off for a well-earned vacation. They were going to rest up from their victory over Nasty Nork in their first adventure, but fate was about to throw a wrench in their travel plans. A week prior, Alora was in Winter Tundra with the Professor and Hunter, working on the Super Portal. After Hunter typed in the coordinates of his birthday on the portal to test it out, Ripto flew out of the portal. The bitter and twisted Ripto, a dinosaur-riding troublemaker, along with his henchmen Crush and Gulp, have taken control over the beautiful land of Epilogue. He was using his newfound power to pick on everyone and spoil the peace and quiet of Epilogue. He was making life miserable with his magical spells. The tyrant then announced himself the new king of Epilogue, and Alora quickly commanded Zoe and her fairy friends to take the orbs and scatter them around Epilogue in order to prevent Ripto from bringing more trouble from his unknown homeworld. Hearing that Ripto disliked dragons, Alora asked if it was possible to catch one. After the professor agreed on the possibility, she went with both the Professor and Hunter to Glimmer to try and summon a dragon who can defeat Ripto. Spyro came flying out of the portal, beginning our adventure to save Epilogue. As the name of the game suggests, Sparx was given more emphasis in this version, as he now talks in cutscenes. The cutscenes are more dialogue heavy, with the level specific cutscenes featuring commentary from Spyro, Sparx and other characters on what's going on. Unfortunately, a lot of this is lost on me because I don't understand Japanese. So I don't know, maybe what they're saying is just Shakespearean genius.
I have a bad case. 肩に手を乗せ I have クロスして a bad case お腹をさすって of diarrhea.
But I don't know. But a change anyone can pick up on is the character designs. The character designs have been slightly tweaked, with many characters such as Hunter getting a different eye colour. Even Spyro's in-game model is slightly different to the American version, with him losing his angry eyes for a more neutral expression. Now this change was also in the European version, which is the version I played as a kid, so I didn't actually notice this at first until looking it up later, writing the script. And Alora's eyeshadow was changed from violet to black. I actually prefer this look. Now for those of you who watched my Spyro 1 video, you'll remember that my biggest issue with the Japanese version of that game was the changes they made to the camera. So did they fix it? Well, yes and no. The default camera setting for this game is the same fixed perspective camera as in Spyro 1. It does have a very slight difference as it isn't as pulled back from Spyro as in the first game, which helps you to see things more easily, and the camera doesn't get caught up on objects as much. This especially helps in indoor areas, which was one of the camera's biggest issues in the last game. Annoyingly, the camera still doesn't rise with you when you jump, except for in boss battles, making higher platforms or enemies harder to see. Thankfully, all of this can be remedied. There's an option in the menu to change it back to the original camera. This alone makes the Japanese version much more playable. During this playthrough, I'll be using the default Japanese camera, so anytime I bring up the issue about the camera, I'm only talking about the fixed camera, and it most likely could be fixed by just switching the character modes. The camera modes, and it most likely would be fixed by switching the camera modes. Some of the controls have been changed, though they're nowhere near as bad as the first game, for the most part.
We had the first breakthrough in terms of what, and for having union movement, be able to move.
Like in the first game, trying to turn while charging is still very stiff, but unlike in the first game, your overall speed is the same as in the English version. And also you can now jump while charging. Yay! Thank God. Sadly, underwater swimming controls have been changed for the worse, but I'm going to go over that a little bit later in the video. Rather than start in a homeworld like in Spyro the Dragon, here we start off in one of the levels, Glimmer Land. The starting stage is very simple in terms of layout and platforming. There are no pitfalls to fall into, and most of the enemies flee from Spyro. This stage works great in allowing you to play around with Spyro's controls. It acts as a sort of tutorial level, but only kind of, and you'll see what I mean by that very soon. Spyro's moveset is pretty much the same as in the first game. Pressing X will cause Spyro to perform a little hop, and if you press X again while in the air, he will glide. A new addition is the ability to flutter at the end of a glide. By pressing triangle in mid-air, Spyro will flutter his wings. This hover will give him a little extra height, allowing him to reach high ledges. Spyro can also breathe fire. Pressing circle causes flames to appear in front of him. Flames can be used to defeat enemies and open certain containers. Using the shoulder buttons, you can make Spyro perform a roll. Oh wait. No, you can't. They took that out. Honestly, I can't blame them for removing it. It was pretty much useless anyway. And then there is the charge, and thank God they didn't botch it like in the last game. Holding down square will make Spyro charge, which can be used to navigate levels faster and to attack enemies. And this time you can jump while charging. Yes! Thank you. Thank you, Japan, for doing your job. It's so hard to describe how much better this game feels to play than the Japanese Spyro one. It's just night and day. It actually feels like you're playing a Spyro game now. The game feels so much more smooth, and even with the fixed camera, the tighter controls makes moving around the levels way more enjoyable. Near the start, we encounter the fairy Zoe. She acts as both the save system and the checkpoint system. When you're near Zoe, she will zap you with her wand, meaning that your progress has been saved and a new checkpoint has been set. It's a much better system than in the previous game, as she will save automatically for us, meaning we don't need to worry about remembering to do so ourselves. Progressing through this level, we will learn something that is quite a bit different in this game than in the first, and that is backtracking to levels. In this level, there is a ladder that we cannot climb, as it is an ability learned later on in the game, so we're not able to 100% complete this level on our first visit, and this is the case for a few other levels. In Spyro 1, all levels were able to be 100% completed upon the first visit, with the one exception being the final homeworld, where certain levels needed to be completed in order for you to be able to collect some of the gems. Personally, I prefer to be able to complete a level the first go around. I also don't think the backtracking adds that much to the game. The abilities don't really open up new areas or anything. They usually just reward you with an orb and some gems, and that's about it. It's also in this first level where we meet the character that will be teaching us these new abilities, money bags, or as he's known in the Japanese version, money bagu. I'm sorry, Japan. He appears throughout the game, charging Spyro exorbitant fees paid in gems.
We've got to have money.
in order for us to advance in certain areas, whether it be by learning a new skill, unlocking doors, and making passages. If you're being pretty thorough in exploring the levels, you should always have enough to pay him. For this first payment, he wants 100 gems in order to get across the bridge. And over the bridge, we reach the end of the level where we are rewarded with our first talismans. Talismans are rewarded after completing the task set for you in the world. In most cases, this is just to simply make our way to the home portal. We are tasked with retrieving one of these from each level of the game. Well, kind of. This game's structure is quite a bit different compared to the previous game. Instead of just running around levels searching for collectibles, you complete missions for people you encounter in each world, which offer two different rewards. There's talismans, which you get by reaching the end of the level, but only in the first two of the game's 3 hub worlds. You need to get the talismans from every level in order to fight the bosses. I don't really understand why they got rid of the talisman gimmick in the last home world, but like, there's speculation that they ran out of time, but even then it doesn't even make sense, because it's like, well, why not just replace it all?
It makes sense to, you know, let me put it another way. It makes no sense.
It just doesn't make sense. Then there's orbs, which are earned for optional objectives such as beating minigames or finding hard to reach areas. They're usually needed to open up the Speedway stages, but you also need to collect a lot of them to reach the final boss. Jumping through the portal, we arrive at the first homeworld, Summer Forest. We meet back up with Allura, who tells us that we need to collect talismans and orbs, so basically what we're already doing. One change they made to the homeworld is that they got rid of the enemies, so there is no need to worry about fighting. These areas are about exploration. One thing they did carry over from the Japanese version of Spyro 1 is the signposts, but they aren't nearly as annoying in this game. For one, you need to press the talk button rather than breathe fire on them in order to read them. This makes it way less likely for you to accidentally activate them. And secondly, there are way fewer of them in the game. They only show up in the hub areas rather than throughout the entire game. The signposts are yet another way for the game to teach the player. Remember how I said earlier that the first level serves as sort of a tutorial? This is why I said it was sort of, because it is in the Summer Forest homeworld where we are greeted with the actual tutorial, and it's kind of strange that they have this here. In some ways it feels almost redundant, because what the tutorial teaches you should already be common knowledge, otherwise you wouldn't have gotten this far. It almost feels like the game was originally supposed to start in the Summer Forest rather than in Glimmer, but was changed later on. Whatever the reason, the tutorial is fairly brief and serves to guide you through the first homeworld. Hunter will give us an orb at the end of the hover tutorial. Yay! But also, why were you withholding this from us? Do you want us to defeat Ripto or not? To be fair, this happens in a lot of games where your ally just keeps a key item from you for no apparent reason. However, this game is particularly inept at doing so, as we will be subjected to this multiple times and by multiple characters throughout the game. Yay! With friends like these. This game focuses a lot more on Spyro meeting and befriending other characters. The main ones we will be interacting with in this game are Allura, Hunter, and the Professor, and of course Zoe and Moneybags, but we already talked about them. Allura is a fawn from Epilogue. She is an expert on the people of Epilogue, providing Spyro with information and advice whenever asked. She is also the one that gave us the guidebook in order to aid us in our quest. Although for some reason in the Japanese version, the guidebook's texture was changed to gibberish. It doesn't even say guidebook in Japanese. They just changed it to be a blurry text. Hunter is a cheetah? For the longest time, I always thought he was a leopard. He looks more like a leopard to me. I'm kind of retarded. Hunter is a very laid-back character, but he can be at times naive and cowardly, and he can be tricked relatively easily. Hunter and Allura are shown to be friends, but Allura has occasionally shown annoyance at his antics or disbelief in his abilities. Despite this, he does help teach Spyro how to glide and hover. The Professor is an intellectual individual who is also seen carrying around a pencil and his notepad. The Professor was the one that decided to bring a dragon into the world to get rid of Ripto, when the group discovered that he disliked dragons. We will be meeting up with these individuals quite a few times along our journey. They are a great addition to the game. Learning and interacting with these characters helps make the world feel a lot more lived in than the previous game. It really helps to build Spyro's personality, as he has more characters to bounce off of. In the last title, Spyro came across as a bit bratty and arrogant, but in this game he is shown to have become less cocky and more level-headed. He is a lot more likable in this game, at least I think so anyway. This is where we meet up with Moneybags once more. This time we'll be learning our first new skill, swimming.
I Aren't we forgetting one teensy weensy but ever so crucial little tiny detail?
And it's shit. At least it is in this version of the game. Swimming on the surface of the water is a skill that Spyro has from the start of the game. Unlike in the first game where he would simply take damage and drown, Spyro will dive under the water if you press square while on the surface. One of the most appealing aspects of the swimming system is that there is no limit for underwater swimming, because Spyro does not need to return to the surface to breathe, and Sparx is encased in a bubble, so there's no need to be concerned about running out of air as in many other games. I hate it. But here comes the shitty part. Pressing the square button causes him to charge underwater, and then he stops. Why did they have to change this?
Anybody who can throw coal into a furnace can learn how to program, for God's sake.
In the original, holding down the square button would have Spyro continuously charging, meaning you could move around swiftly through the water, but here you hold down square and you just stop. I, for the life of me, cannot understand this change at all. It makes swimming both more difficult and less fun. Because you are constantly stopping, it makes it really easy to misjudge distance when attacking enemies, meaning taking a lot more damage. And it's not like you have any other way to take out enemies underwater, as you can't use Spyro's flame attack. There is also a significant delay which prevents you from pressing the button in a rhythmic manner to keep charging. It's an unnecessary change that makes one of the game's best additions an annoyance. Why Japan? You're doing so well. Summer Forest has 6 levels we can visit, not including the Speedway or the boss. The levels are the same as in the English version, but they have different names, but unlike in the first game, there are no longer suffixes for levels in the Japanese version. There is Glimmer, or as it's called in this version, Glimmer Land, which we have already covered. There is Idol Springs, known as Makoku Lake in Japan. The workmen's sculptured idols have unexpectedly come to life and are causing trouble. We must battle the idols that are attacking the sculptors in order to advance. This level also has a few puzzle missions which are quite fun, if you like puzzles that is. Colossus is called Zen Temple. A Yeti is terrorizing the monks here, but they have managed to cage it by locking all the doors. Brother Harry requests that Spyro speak with the other monks in order for them to open the doors and lead him to the Yeti. This level includes a hockey minigame, which I despised as a child, and still do. Ice physics. Sunny Beach is called Kami Kami Beach. Water workers are attempting to package the newborn baby turtles and ship them to an unknown destination, and it is our responsibility to ensure that all of the young turtles are freed. Many of the activities in this level are inaccessible in your first visit, and they necessitate both swimming and climbing abilities. Harikos is Electrobin in the Japanese version, I think. I'm sorry, I can't read Japanese, and that was the best I could do when finding the translations for some of these level names. The gear grinders have sealed all the doors by removing all the diodes. We assist the Electrolls by defeating all of the gear grinders and their robots, retrieving the diodes and returning them to their proper location. This realm contains a fantastic gliding challenge. We will be rewarded with 2 orbs if we complete it successfully. Aquaria Tower is now called Aqua Tower. It is an underwater realm. The realm is ruled by intelligent seahorses who are watched over by the Seahorse King. As the name implies, there are numerous underwater towers that serve as homes for the seahorses that reside there. Prior to their arrival, the water workers drained all the water. Switches located around the stage will release all the water, and once it has been restored to normal, the level will open up fully for exploration. Unfortunately, the botch swimming mechanics make this level far less enjoyable in this version. Each level begins and ends with its own cutscene, showing what is going on in the world and providing a preview of what you will need to do within the level. Talking to the NPCs of the level will also give you more insight in the going-ons of their realm. Spyro 2 has significantly more story and cutscenes than in the first game. They do an excellent job of developing the characters and setting. The Japanese version also includes voiceovers of Spyro and Sparx commenting on the cutscenes, which were previously without dialogue. I can't really say that the added dialogue adds any value because I don't understand Japanese, but given that the originals were perfectly coherent and didn't require any to be understood, I'm gonna go out on a limb here and say probably not. The levels in this game are much more varied than those in the first game, and while they don't quite reach the scale of some of the levels in the first game, they have more content in them overall. The smaller size does help with the backtracking that needs to be done in order to achieve 100%, as well as many shortcuts placed within the stages. In this game, a map was added to help with navigation. The map feature can be viewed in the bottom left corner of the screen. Spyro's location appears as a beam of light on the map, with the exact position of Spyro being the smaller point and the larger point being where Spyro is looking. The map is kind of pointless though, as it doesn't display much useful information, and the levels are well designed with plenty of landmarks that you never really feel lost. To be honest, I didn't even notice the map until a few levels in, and then it was quickly forgotten again. That's how unnecessary it is. Along with the talismans, orbs are used as an energy source by the residents of Epilogue to power their portals. There are a total of 64 orbs to collect, but we only need to collect 40 in order to reach Ripto. So just like in the previous title, the game is quite lenient on its requirements to finish the game. However, once again, there is an extra reward for players that choose to go for 100% completion. Within levels, there are missions that Spyro needs to complete in order to earn orbs. There is a huge variety of missions ranging from solving puzzles to hunting down lizards. Speaking of lizard hunting, this is where we are going to introduce yet another new feature of this game. Spyro is able to pick up things in his mouth and can shoot them at targets. By pressing the triangle, we can go into the aiming mode where a circle reticle will be displayed. Pressing circle will fire the object at where you aim. This is used during a lot of missions throughout the game. It can also be used with Spyro's Super Flame power-up. Each mission is given a difficulty rating out of 5 stars, with 1 being the easiest and 5 being the hardest. Although for a lot of these missions, the ratings are highly debatable. With some with high ratings not seeming any more difficult than others with lower ratings. It's also not really clear what the rating is based on. For example, the Aqua Tower, there is a mission to rescue baby seahorses from 6 towers around the level. It has a 4-star difficulty rating, but isn't really all that hard at all, it just takes a while to complete. But then there is an ice hockey mission in Zen Temple, where you have to score 5 goals against the enemies. This mission is just as difficult due to the slippery ice physics, and can take a while, and yet it is only 3-star difficulty mission. Personally, I find the seahorse mission much less stressful, so the rating system comes across as arbitrary most of the time. There are also orbs that can be found by just exploring a level thoroughly. These are my most favourite orbs to collect in the game, as scouring the levels is one of my favourite aspects of these games, and it is really rewarding to come across an orb in a hard to reach area. After collecting the talismans from each of the 6 levels, we are able to face the first boss of the game, Crush. The boss battles are a big improvement over the previous game, though there are not as many of them. They employ actual strategies and will change tactics as you deal more damage to them. The arena is very open, making it easy to track the boss movements. Strangely enough, it is only in the boss fights that the camera will rise with Spyro when he jumps. Why they couldn't make the default camera do this for the whole game is a mystery to me. To hit Crush, we must avoid his attacks until his shield dispels. He has 2 different attacks, a blue shockwave that we must jump over and red fireballs that we need to dodge. The coloured floor panels he is standing on determines which attack he will use. Once his shield is down, flame him and he will try to smack Spyro with his club, causing rocks to fall on him. We repeat this process a few times to take him out. With Crush defeated and Summer Forest freed from Ripto, we now make our way to Autumn Plains. Before entering Autumn Plains, let's take a quick little detour to the Speedways. Speedways are similar to those of the first game, except each Speedway has a secret hunter challenge that can be completed for orbs. There are 4 Speedways in total, and each have 1 orb and 400 gems for you to collect. To obtain the gems, it is the same method seen in Spyro 1. You must fly around and destroy or activate obstacles by flaming them or going through them. There are 4 different obstacles per speedway, and each obstacle comes in sets of 8. For each set you complete, you will earn 80 gems, and once all the sets are completed in one go, you will be rewarded with another 80 gems for the flight, for a total of 400 gems. Once again, there is a time limit, which you can add time by destroying and or activating obstacles. The analog stick controls Spyro's movement in the air. The flame attack is the same as in regular gameplay, and you can use the jump button to have Spyro ascend quickly. To obtain the orbs from each level, you must complete a mission specific to that level, however they do all involve a flying challenge. In Ocean Speedway, Queen Finini can be found in the spectator stands. She'll challenge us to race the current champion Hunter. Despite the mission setup, you don't actually have to beat Hunter, just keep up with him. As he flies ahead of you, he will go through rings. The first one through the ring will cause it to turn green and shrink. If it gets too small, you won't be able to go through and thus lose the challenge. This mission is actually quite hard, especially for me since I'm bad at flying. In Metro Speedway, you can find the mayor behind a waterfall. The mayor's re-election funds were stolen by cat burglars. We have to collect all the bags of the gems shot from the cat burglars by Hunter. If a bag falls into the water, you have to start over. Sometimes it feels like you get almost no time to reach a bag falling, but if you just memorize where they all are, it isn't that difficult. Charging into the igloo in the ice speedway, we find Hunter hiding out. To get this orb, we must paraglide through 50 colourful rings without missing a single one. The controls can take a bit to get used to, as you will be constantly pushed towards the centre of the screen. In the Canyon Speedway, Hunter is in a cave high in the mountain face. He asks us to man the guns on his toy plane. We need to fire the guns at every blimp we can find. If you just hold down the fire button, it's pretty simple to complete. The missions are a nice addition to the Speedway. It's also quite fun just flying around trying to find them. The tight flying controls makes these levels a nice break from the core game loop. Even if the extra missions don't interest you, they are a good way to earn some quick gems if you need them for money bags. Autumn Plains music is amazing. It gives this homeworld such a majestic atmosphere. Stuart Copeland is back to perform the music. This time around the music has a more ambient feel to it. There's a wider range of genres and styles represented, making each piece more distinct. Whether you find this an improvement or not is purely up to taste, but the sound design on the other hand is a definite upgrade, with many of the sound effects reworked to make gem collection, charging, breathing fire, taking out enemies and the like significantly more rewarding. There is a huge castle that we get to explore here too, with plenty of secrets to find. In order to gain access to the castle, we first have to buy the climb ability from moneybags. Certain walls have ladders on them and can be climbed. Simply jumping against the ladder will make Spyro climb it, and he can climb in any direction for as far as the ladder goes. This move is also needed in a lot of previous stages, so to backtrack you can go through the portal here to get back to Summer Forest. Autumn Plains homeworld has the most realms in the game with a total of 8, not including the 2 speedways and boss. There is Crystal Glacier that keeps its original name. The ice builders live in the realm, which is overseen by an elder named Chief Shaman Tuck. Tuck has tickets to tonight's Colossus hockey game, but the Ice Wizards have frozen the Ice Builders and kidnapped their elder. We defrost them all and save their elder. Scalos Badlands, now just called Badlands, is a large desert-like world. Bronk and Glug, 2 caveman cousins, have placed bets on Spyro surviving their world without getting burned. There are several lava pits to fall into throughout the world, as well as many flying enemies. As demonstrated by their comparable inhabitants and prehistoric settings, this stage is the sister stage to Crystal Glacier. Zephyr is called Slime Ranch in this version, which is weirdly appropriate for this level. It is the domain of land blubbers, enormous, obese slug-like animals who vie for dominance with the breeze builder birds of Breeze Harbour. While the breeze builders bombard the realm with artillery, Spyro must join the land blubber military ranks and fight his way through the breeze builder forces to blow up their ammunition building. Whew, that sentence was a handful. This realm can be a bit of a pain to travel through due to the birds constantly trying to drop bombs on you. Breeze Harbour is now called Floatport. It is the Breeze Builders' homeworld, a race of birds at war with the land blubbers. The land blubbers are taking over the harbour by extinguishing all of the fires, rendering the machines inoperable. Beaky tells us to start the boilers so he can get to their ship. The trolley minigame is very... Scorch is called Hot Grouper. I'm sorry, I'm almost certain that translation is wrong. Scorch is set in a Middle Eastern style desert palace. Handel and Greta, 2 young secret agents, have lost communication with one another, and it is Spyro's task to reunite the siblings so they may fulfill their super secret mission. In this stage, you must play Capture the Flag with a character named Bombo in order to retrieve the orb. He appears to be wearing a nappy. I used to think he was a giant baby on a flying carpet when I was a kid. Yeah, yes, I was that stupid. Fracture Hills is called Musica Hills. It is the home to fawns, so it is often thought that Elora comes from Fracture Hills, but this has never been confirmed. Prior to our arrival in this world, Earthshakers have turned the six satyrs and the temple into stone to silence their music. This level has a spooky feel to it, and the spookiest part of all has to be this guy here.
She's not a Christian!
The Alchemist Escort mission is the worst mission in the entire game.
In Jesus' name I pray!
And what is even worse is that if you complete it before you have learned the head bash ability, you will have to do it again.
You're a monster!
Magma Core is a volcanic world inhabited by friendly male fauns. They are about to have a party when Earthshakers unclog the volcano. To complete this level, we must assist the fauns in killing all of the Earthshakers and closing the volcano's lid. This has one of the biggest areas you get to fly around in using the Super Flyer power up. Shady Oasis, now Oasis Dome, is another Middle Eastern themed level. The residential hippos are attempting to reach the magic berry bush, but are too short and weak. They briefly become much larger after eating the berries, allowing them to bash through caged doors. Spyro must assist Shorty, a hippo, in reaching the Great Berry Bush, where they can eat the berries all the time. I had a lot of trouble with the Japanese camera in this portion of the game. For some reason, the camera was trying to point behind Spyro when he was chasing down the thieves in this level, and made completing this mission really frustrating. Like in Spyro 1, there is a huge variety of enemies, with most being unique to a realm. The majority of the enemies aren't much bigger than Spyro and can be defeated with either Spyro's charge attack or flame breath. Enemies armed with weapons will try to fight back, but are often easily dispatched with either attack. There are also enemies much bigger than them too. These guys can't be taken down with a charge attack, so we must use fire to defeat them. Occasionally there are enemies that require 2 flame attacks to beat. Then there are those who will be wearing metal armor or carrying metal shields. These enemies will absorb the heat from your regular flame attacks, so must be charged into or use the super flame power up. In the case of large enemies wearing armor, they will need to be either attacked from behind with the flame breath or knocked off an edge. Enemies don't drop gems anymore, but beating enough of them in each level activates power up gates. These gates grant you temporary power ups. Superfly gives Spyro the ability to fly around, though there are set limits to how high he can fly, depending on the gate. Supercharge gates grant Spyro the supercharge move that will last as long as you hold down the charge button or bonk into something. It can be used to move quickly through an area and to destroy reinforced obstacles. Invincibility makes Spyro invincible to enemies and hazards for a limited amount of time. The spring jump gate will launch Spyro high into the air, allowing you to reach certain areas. The Super Flame Gate turns Spyro's flame attack into a super version that can destroy metal and take out the toughest of foes. And finally there is the Super Flame Superfly Gate, which is a combination power up that mixes both Superfly and Super Flame at the same time. There are power up gates in each level, excluding boss arenas, speedways and homeworlds. A majority of the levels contain 1 power up gate, while a handful contain 2 gates. They are not essential to completing levels, but are useful for creating shortcuts and beating side missions. Of course, that wouldn't be a proper Spyro game without collecting some gems. The gems function pretty much the same as in the last game, but their designs have been altered slightly. Each gem has received their own unique cuts to further differentiate them from each other. The red gems worth a value of 1 have been changed to a brilliant cut. The green gems worth 2 has become a fat triangle natural cut. The blue gem worth 5 is now a dark purple colour, as well as being changed to a rectangular emerald cut. The yellow gem worth 10 is a square emerald cut, and the magenta gem worth 25 has been changed to be a more darker colour, with the cut being changed to an ovoid brilliant. They are found lying around in levels, in breakable containers, and as speedway rewards. Sparx in this game has picked up a very useful ability. If you are having trouble locating gems within a level, he is able to point you in the right direction. He won't show you exactly where they are, but he does give enough of an idea to lead you to the last missing few without too much trouble. Sparx is now able to pick up more gems at a time, making picking them up even more efficient, although you will still run into the issue of having to collect them yourself as Spyro is at low health. Gems need to be collected in order to pay money bags in exchange for access to various realms, areas within realms and abilities, so the priority to collect gems is a bit higher than in the first game. We also need all 10,000 of them to unlock the 100% completion reward. The completion reward for this game is actually not that great, and it's disappointing compared to the first game. It's true. Gems are still my favourite collectibles. They are very satisfying to find and act as a great incentive as well as a great reward in exploring the various levels. Even though Sparx has a bigger role in the Japanese version than in the English, they still made him worse in this version. Yeah, he's still that stupid green colour, and yes, He still does not change color when you take damage. This was a bad idea in the first game and it's still a bad idea here. I feel like there must have been a better way to account for that pocket station system. Like maybe instead of having him change colors, he could have different hats. Each time you take damage, he puts on a different hat. That is the worst idea ever. To regain health, Sparx will eat butterflies, which spawn when you kill animal fodder.
Yeah, well now there's a new world order. So what we've got here is we've got sheep, then these humans, then lions, then dogs, and then cats.
Really? Sheep are up the top?
No, cats are at the top. I was reading from the bottom up, sorry.
On certain occasions, these butterflies will be a special blue butterfly that will grant Spyro an extra life. These butterflies can also be found in jars hidden around the stages.
More than 100 years. Look, here's the lives. When you think about it.
When all 8 talismans have been collected, Gulp's Overlook will open up and we can go and face the boss. During this boss fight, there will be pterodactyls dropping down metal barrels, bombs, and rockets for Spyro to use to damage Gulp. Gulp in the meantime will be charging you down as well as shooting you with large electro balls from the guns on his back. He can also pick up the rockets and fire them at you. Chickens will also be dropped on the field to help regain health, but if Gulp gets to one, it restores a portion of his health instead. Overall, this fight isn't that difficult, but it still does provide a decent challenge. After Spyro is rewarded with a small break, we follow Elora to the final homeworld, Winter Tundra. Yes, that's right, there are only 3 homeworlds in this game, one representing each of the 4 seasons. There are no talismans to collect here, instead we will need a minimum of 40 orbs in order to take on Ripto. It feels kind of weird that they just suddenly drop the whole talisman thing. It makes sense in terms of the setting up for the final boss, but it does make the game feel a bit incomplete. Despite the winter theme of the homeworld, there aren't actually any winter themed levels. Winter Tundra also has the least amount of levels, with there only being 4. The levels are some of the best in the game though. Mystic Marsh is called Mystic Shower. A fountain that once kept the wildlife calm has ceased working, and the animals have turned angry and antagonistic. It's our job to discover why the fountain has stopped working. You can trigger the spring power gate and jump to the wizard in charge of powering up the fountain by beating enough enemies. The wizard's nozzle has dozed off, and the switch to the fountain had been powered down. King Kong Temple is the new name for Cloud Temples. A war between wizards and warlocks is taking place here, and we must recover the wizards' wands from the warlocks so that they can restore order. Both wizards and the warlocks are kind of freaky looking.
I rebuke it in the name of the Lord!
Robotica Farms is set in an environment reminiscent of traditional farms, but with a futuristic twist. It is operated by robotic farmers who have been plagued by huge bug infestations. The massive bug lamp that normally protects the farm has suddenly ceased operating. It is our responsibility to make our way through the farms, exterminating as many bugs as we can along the way and reactivating the lamps so the farm may be protected once more. Metropolis is now called Metropolis? What? Is that even a word? Metropolis. That's what Metropolis. Metropolis is a sorry, I can't even say it. Is a futuristic realm. We must make our way through the level, annihilating the invading cows.
Moo.
We framed those bloody cows, Robert.
This is the game's only level with a combo power-up gate. This is without a doubt one of my favourite levels in the game. Suicidal pigs attached to rockets and cows in spacesuits with lasers. The premise is ridiculous. It's amazing. The graphics are still fantastic. The levels are expertly detailed, utilising the level detail rendering technique. Every level has 2 versions, a flat shaded world with no detail and one with much more detailed textures and geometry that phase between them depending on your distance to any given point. Close objects have more detail than anything further away. The use of distinct landmarking within the worlds make them both memorable as well as easy to navigate. The carefully considered use of colours and architecture for each individual level also adds to this effect. Overall, the style of the game remains relatively unchanged from the first game, with some very slight deviations. Like I mentioned before, The gems got a bit of a facelift, but also did a lot of the character models. Spyro's model was improved, and they also made him appear a little bit taller and with longer wings, probably to reflect the fact that he is older in this game. Enemies are more clearly defined and have more freedom to express themselves than in the past. This extends to the NPCs, who have a really goofy range of designs that convey a lot of personality. Added to the fact that you actually get to talk and interact with these characters makes levels that are housed in feel really lived in. When we have collected enough orbs, we can climb the stairs and begin our showdown with the final boss, Ripto. The final boss between Spyro and Ripto takes place on the arena floor on top of the castle of Winter Tundra. Spyro's regular attacks cannot harm Ripto, so he must dodge Ripto's attacks while collecting orbs before he does. When Spyro collects 3 orbs, he can use the special attack which damages Ripto. Ripto's only attack without the orbs is to shoot fireballs from his scepter. The second stage of the battle is basically the same, except this time Ripto is on Robot Gulp. Robot Gulp explodes when he is defeated and Ripto falls off him. After this, Ripto turns a gold orb into a giant robotic bird, destroys the arena floor, and we must fight Ripto as he flies on the back of the robotic bird. We eventually defeat Ripto using the Super Flame power-up. Overall, the boss isn't too difficult, but man is it a huge upgrade from the final boss of the last game. Spyro gets a sweet kiss on the cheek from Allura, and Hunter gets all of our gems back from Moneybags. Now Spyro can finally enjoy a well-deserved vacation. After Ripto is defeated, we can take the super portal to Dragon Shores. However, to get into the park, we must have 8,000 gems and 55 orbs. Once inside, there are various mini-games which reward us with tokens. One game consists of a Naut tossing softballs on the ground, which Spyro can pick up in his mouth, using these unlimited softballs to hit the target, which will make the character sitting in the chamber fall into the water below. This one isn't a game, but a sort of ride through a tunnel of love. The next one requires us to shoot targets using a temporary Super Flame power-up. The first one just has fake duck targets, but the last 2 rounds actually use enemies from the game. The last game is a roller coaster that Spyro can ride on. The first round consists of Spyro going through a linear path while avoiding obstacles and popping balloons. The other rounds add side paths and a cannon used to pop faraway balloons. Once all 10 tokens have been collected, a theatre is unlocked where the game's cutscenes can be viewed. Once Spyro has visited this area, the cutscenes also become available in the guidebook. Oh yeah, in this area we'll also get a 100% completion reward, the permanent Super Flame power-up. Yay! This reward is very
disappointing.
There's nothing really left to do in the game, so what is even the point? Such a downgrade from the last game's reward. And there is one final thing that we need to go over. A new addition in the game are skill points, which are earned by completing a variety of optional tasks. Sometimes it involves destroying certain things in level, getting to a secret area, or getting a certain time in a speedway. These act much like the achievement and trophy systems. For each one you get an extra life. When you get 8 of the skill points, you get an epilogue that you can view from the guidebook. And when you get all 16 of them, you get an extra bit added to the epilogue. Spyro and Sparx Tondemo Tours is leaps and bounds ahead of its predecessor. While researching this game, it kept coming up in the forum discussion that this game had a botched localization on par with the first game, but this is just simply untrue. Most people talking about it clearly have not even played this version. This version of the game is not bad, it has just been stigmatized because of its older brother. The Japanese localization for Spyro 2, all in all, is pretty decent. Mostly because they left well enough alone. Aside from the swimming, this game is just as good as its English counterpart. But unfortunately it was too little too late. The damage that the first game had dealt was too severe to recover from, and Spyro was officially pronounced dead in Japan. Spyro the Year of the Dragon on the PlayStation 1 was never released in Japan. They would have to wait a full 18 years before they would see the third entry in the form of the Spyro Reignited trilogy.